There are places in the galaxy where the laws of survival are rewritten by evolution in terrifying ways. The moon of Xylos-Minor, designated Sector 77 Red, was one such place. It was a graveyard world, shrouded in perpetual freezing mist and silence. 10 years ago, the Terran Mining Consortium established Outpost Vega there to harvest rare crystalline isotopes. 2 weeks later, the outpost went dark. The distress calls were incoherent. They weren't screams for help, they were just recordings of people terrified to breathe. The rescue team sent and found a slaughterhouse frozen in time, with every colonist dead, their bodies twisted in agony, their hands clamped over their own mouths even in death. The Federation quarantined the moon, placing a kill buoy in orbit with a simple warning broadcast on all frequencies: do not land. Do not speak. They are listening. The things that lived there, the apex predators that had evolved in the lightless caverns of Xylos-Minor, were called echo walkers. They were blind, chitinous nightmares that hunted not by scent or sight, but by the echolocation of terror. To an echo walker, a heartbeat was a drum, a footstep was a thunderclap, and a scream was a beacon that painted a target on your chest. The quarantine held for a decade, until a deep-skin relay picked up a faint, rhythmic tapping from beneath the ruins of Outpost Vega. It was a Morse code SOS, tapped out on a ventilation pipe, originating from a deep storage bunker that had somehow remained sealed. Someone was alive down there. And because humanity does not leave its own behind to be eaten by monsters in the dark, they sent in the 7th Retrieval Unit. We called ourselves the Grave Walkers. We were combat engineers and xenospecialists trained to operate in environments where the physics of the planet hated us. Our gear was designed for one thing: absolute acoustic stealth. We wore Mark IV sonic wall armor, heavy suits layered with active noise-canceling metamaterials and acoustic dampening gel. The suits didn't just muffle sound, they actively generated anti-sound waves to neutralize the vibrations of our own movements. If you dropped a wrench while wearing a Mark IV, it hit the floor with the sound of a falling feather. Our weapons were whisper rifles, magnetic linear accelerators that used electromagnetic coils to hurl a tungsten flechette at hypersonic speeds. No gunpowder, no explosion, just a soft magnetic snick as the round left the barrel. We communicated through throat mics that picked up subvocal vibrations and transmitted them directly to our helmet bone conduction pieces. We were ghosts in power armor, an entire squad that could walk through a library without waking a sleeping cat. Captain Rylan, a veteran of the fungal wars on Delta 9, led the drop. The descent through the atmosphere was the loudest part of the mission, the roar of the retro rockets feeling almost obscene. As soon as the landing ramps hit the frozen regolith of Xylos-Minor, the silence descended like a physical weight. It wasn't a peaceful silence, it was a predatory one. It felt thick, expectant, like the air itself was holding its breath waiting for someone to make a mistake. We moved into the ruins of Outpost Vega in standard sweep formation. The colony was a tomb frozen in the moment of its death. We saw utility vehicles crashed into HAB modules, their drivers having panicked. We saw frozen bodies huddled in corners, their faces masks of sheer terror. Every surface was covered in rime ice and dust. Rylan signaled for a halt near the entrance to the main mine shaft. His voice crackled in our helmets, clear but utterly silent to the outside world. Check your seals. Check your dampeners. From this point on, if you sneeze, you kill us all. The target is Lieutenant Kalen, geologist. She's holed up in Bunker 4, Sub-Level 3. We go down, we get her, we get out. No heroics. No noise. We descended into the mine shaft. The deeper we went, the heavier the silence became. The air temperature dropped and the walls of the cavern glistened with moisture. Our helmet HUDs began to pick up biological signatures. They were everywhere. The echo walkers were clinging to the ceiling of the massive cavern, hanging like grotesque, oversized bats. They were vaguely humanoid but hunched, their limbs elongated and ending in razor-sharp claws designed for gripping rock and tearing flesh. Their heads were the stuff of nightmares. No eyes, no nose, just a massive concave facial structure that acted as a biological parabolic dish, fringed with thousands of quivering sensory quills. They were dormant, their metabolism slowed to a crawl as they waited for prey. We had to walk directly beneath them. It was the most terrifying walk of my life. I could hear my own blood pumping in my ears, a sound that felt deafening inside my helmet. I looked up and saw hundreds of them, their pale, chitinous bodies slick with condensation. One of them twitched as I passed beneath it, its sensory quills flaring out like a blooming flower, tasting the air for vibration. My sonic wall suit did its job, neutralizing the sound of my boots on the metal grating. The creature settled back down. We reached the blast door of Bunker 4. It was a heavy hydraulic seal designed to withstand a cave-in. Opening it silently was impossible. Rylan knew it. He signaled Lieutenant Vance, our demolitions expert. Vance didn't use explosives. He used a thermal lance to slowly, quietly melt through the locking mechanism. It took an agonizing 20 minutes of sizzling metal and rising steam. When the lock finally gave way, the heavy door shifted inward with a deep, resonant metallic groan that echoed through the cavern systems like a church bell. The reaction was instantaneous. Above us, the ceiling came alive. Hundreds of dormant biosignatures on our HUDs flared into angry red. A collective shriek echoed through the mineshaft, not a vocal sound but a high-frequency sonar ping that hit our armor with enough force to rattle our teeth. They had found us. Contact front. Contact rear. They're awake. Ryland's subvocal orders were clipped and calm. Vance, get the door open. Ramirez, Jax, hold the corridor. Free fire, but watch your lanes. The Echo Walkers swarmed down the walls, moving with terrifying speed, a blur of claws and pale skin. They didn't need to see us. The noise of the door had given them a perfect sonic map of our position. They leaped through the air, aiming for the source of the sound. We opened fire with the whisper rifles. The corridor filled with the soft snick-snick-snick of magnetic acceleration. Tungsten flechettes punched through chitin and flesh, dropping the leading creatures mid-leap. They died silently, their bodies tumbling to the ground, but for every one we killed, 5 more took its place. They were frantic, driven mad by the sudden intrusion of noise into their silent world. A large alpha male landed on the catwalk in front of me, its massive sensory head tilting as it triangulated my position based on the hum of my suit's power cell. I put 3 rounds into its chest before it could lunge. The sonic wall armor was the only thing keeping us alive. When they leaped, they targeted where they thought we were, often missing by inches because our acoustic footprint was smaller than our physical bodies. Vance got the door open. Inside we found Lieutenant Kalen. She was curled under a desk, emaciated, clutching a geologist's hammer, her eyes wide and vacant. She had survived for 10 years in total darkness and absolute silence, terrified that the sound of opening a ration pack would kill her. When she saw our armored figures, she opened her mouth to scream. Rylan was there instantly, his armored hand clamping over her faceplate, stifling the sound. Quiet, Lieutenant. We're here to take you home. But you have to be quiet. We drugged her with a mild sedative to keep her calm and began the ascent. The retreat was a running battle through hell. The swarm was relentless. They came from ventilation shafts, from cracks in the walls, a flowing river of teeth and claws. We were firing constantly, our barrels glowing red-hot, the silent death of the railguns piling up bodies in the narrow corridors. We reached the main freight elevator that would take us to the surface. It was a massive industrial platform and activating it would be loud. The swarm was closing in on all sides, the walls crawling with them. We were surrounded. Silence was no longer an option. Rylan looked at the approaching horde, then at the elevator controls. They want noise. Rylan growled, his voice hard. Vance, deploy the banshee. The banshee was a desperate measure. It was an acoustic denial device, a heavily armored speaker system designed to emit broadband white noise at 180 decibels. It was the sonic equivalent of a nuclear flashbang. Vance slammed the device onto the center of the elevator platform and armed it. We huddled around Kalen, bracing ourselves. Rylan hit the elevator activation switch. The gears ground to life with a massive roar. The Echo Walkers shrieked in triumph, lunging toward the sound platform. Then the banshee detonated. Even through our heavy acoustic dampening, the sound was a physical blow, a wall of pure, agonizing noise that vibrated in our very bones. For the Echo Walkers, whose entire existence was evolved for hypersensitive hearing, it was apocalypse. The approaching wave of creatures didn't just stop, they seized. They convulsed violently, clawing at their own sensory heads, their delicate auditory systems shattered by the overload. They fell from the walls, writhing in agony on the floor. The elevator ascended through a rain of falling monsters. We breached the surface, the freezing fog swirling around us, and ran for the drop ship. As we lifted off, I looked back at the silent moon. The banshee was still screaming down in the dark, a beacon of agonizing noise in the nest of silence. We had survived, but we hadn't won. We had just reminded the galaxy that humanity refuses to die quietly. We will walk into the darkest, quietest hells to retrieve our own, and if we have to, we will scream loud enough to shatter the monsters that live there. This has been Apex Sci-Fi. Silence is golden, but heavy ordnance is silver. If you enjoyed this trip into the silent horror, hit that like button, quietly. Comment below. What is the most terrifying alien evolution you can imagine? Subscribe for the next story in the Pharaoh Frontier Saga. The Red Moss Protocol. The silence is broken. The frontier is open.